Not a lot of dialogue from our Republican leaders in Georgia. Nothing from Burt Jones. Now, we understand he's under investigation, Lieutenant Governor. Of course, we heard what Brian Kemp said. He basically blasted Trump in a tweet. So we got that going. We also haven't heard from Chris Carr, Attorney General. We haven't heard from the Speaker of the House, John Burns. We haven't heard from the Majority Leader in the Senate. What's the deal here? Why is Georgia Republicans silent? Oh, by the way, here's the other person we haven't heard from, Ronna Romney McDaniel. Jenny Beth, why the crickets?
I think that they're just afraid to speak out. They're afraid to say what we know is accurate. There were irregularities in the election in Georgia. According to OCGA 21-2-522, a candidate has a legal right to file an election contest, which means a challenge to the election for fraud, misconduct, or irregularities. And at the very lowest bar, irregularities. There were irregularities in Georgia, from changing how you verify absentee ballots from a 2-signature verification to a 1-signature verification, mailing out absentee ballot applications statewide with taxpayer dollars, drop boxes, many other issues that we know arose during the election. And they're just afraid to admit it. If they admit that there was a problem, or they say what Fani is doing is wrong, then they have to examine their behavior over the last 3 years, and none of them want to do that.
So where do we go from here? I mean, they're going to be, arraigned and booked by Monday, so they're going to do fingerprints, mug shots, handcuffs. Isn't there statutes in Georgia where you can actually sue back for egregious prosecution? What's the strategy now?
As far as that part goes, whether you can sue back or not, I'm not quite positive on that. So I'll have to look into the law on that, since I'm not an attorney. But I think that what we're going to have to see now is that all of these people who've been indicted are going to have to mount a criminal defense and prove that they are not guilty. And it's going to be very, very costly. And I don't know exactly what the outcome will be. I think in Fulton County, Georgia, the chances of getting one juror who can think for his or herself and pay attention to the facts and pay attention to the criminal defense of this, because that's what's going to have to happen. It's much better in Fulton County than it would be and will be for President Trump in Washington, D.C. or New York. I think that in Washington, D.C., it's just going to be a kangaroo court with a predetermined outcome.
So, Jenny Beth, you're the founder of the Tea Party Patriots. You're from Atlanta. I know you very well. You probably got a better finger on the pulse of the grassroots conservative movement than anybody I know in America. What are you sensing? What are people feeling? What are they saying? How is the grassroots reacting to what went down the other day in Atlanta?
Well, my first reaction, my reaction to it is that this is the worst abuse of power I've seen in Georgia in my entire life. And I'm sure there have been other more egregious abuses of power or just as egregious abuse of power in Georgia's history, but this is the worst I've ever seen. What I am hearing from people around the country is that they're afraid. They're afraid to speak up. They're becoming, these indictments are doing what they are intended to do, and that is they are having a chilling effect on free speech. People are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to talk about what they think about the election in 2020. They're afraid to think about what they think may happen to the election in 2024. They're afraid for themselves that they may be indicted if they speak up. They're afraid for President Trump, and they're afraid for these other electors and people who are indicted. And some of them, they don't know who the people are. They just know that they weren't elected officials. Um, not everyone is that way, but I'm seeing this trend. The same thing happened when we were targeted by the IRS. When we were targeted by the IRS, I started hearing people around the country tell me privately, I don't know if I can do this because we might get audited. And they had a reason to be concerned, a legit reason to be concerned. There was congressional testimony that said that if you donated to a Tea Party group, you were six times more likely to be audited by the IRS personally. I get the fear. I understand the fear. I have similar concerns late at night. I sit there going through my day going, am I going to have a knock at the door next? But you cannot let that stop you. We have to continue to stand up for what is right. And John, last night I started thinking about this. I think that no matter what happens, the leftists in this country are the true losers because they're never going to make those of us who love this country and know that America is the greatest country that has ever been ever in the entire history of the world. They'll never be able to make us not love what we know America can be. And they can do all that they want and throw every single thing at us. But at the end of the day, we still love this country and we will always continue to stand for liberty in this country.